camera starts with close-up shots of an empty house, sunlight streaming through the windows, soft piano music in the background. You think you know your family, until the day they tell you you don't belong. I spent 13 years caring for a young man, who wasn't even mine by blood. I paid for his tuition, his apartment, his car, even his first failed business. I was there at 2 a.m. when he called crying. I drove him to the hospital, fixed his mistakes, and stood silently, while his father looked the other way. And then one day, he told me I wasn't family. He told me I didn't belong. That I shouldn't come to his wedding. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just started making calls. By the end of the night, everything was about to change. Here is what happened when I decided, if they don't want me in their life, then I will disappear. Completely. Cut to a shot of Margaret, looking out at the city skyline, calm, resolute. Tension builds as music rises. Fade into part 1 narration. People think anger looks loud. Yelling. Slamming doors. Breaking things. That's not how it happened for me. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just picked up the phone. The first call was to my attorney. The second was to my financial planner. The third was to a real estate agent I trusted for decades. By the time the sun went down that evening, I had already set things in motion, things no one in my family saw coming. But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Margaret Leo. I'm 62 years old. And for 13 years, I was a stepmother to a young man named Ethan. When I married his father, Daniel, Ethan was 17, barely out of high school, restless, ambitious, and constantly changing his mind about who he wanted to be. 1 month it was engineering, the next it was music, then business, then something creative. Daniel and I met at a charity auction in San Diego. He was divorced, charming in a quiet way, and still carrying a lot of guilt from raising a child mostly on his own. Ethan's biological mother had passed away when he was 11. I never tried to replace her. I never asked Ethan to call me Mom. I just showed up. And I kept showing up. I paid for his college tuition when he decided to attend a private university out of state. When he said the dorms were unbearable, I covered the rent for an off-campus apartment. When he said he needed a car to be independent, I helped with that too. When he wanted to travel abroad after graduation to find himself, I paid for the flights. When his first startup collapsed within a year, I didn't lecture him. I helped settle the debts and close everything cleanly. I helped him move more times than I can remember. I was the one he called at 2 in the morning after breakups. I was the one who drove him to urgent care when he got sick and didn't want to bother his friends. I was the one mediating when he and his father couldn't speak to each other without shouting. Daniel used to tell me I was too generous, that I spoiled Ethan. Maybe I did. But the truth is, I never had children of my own. My first marriage ended before that ever happened. This was my chance to have a family. And I took it seriously. 2 months ago, Ethan got engaged. Her name was Lena. She worked in marketing, confident, polished, always seemed to know exactly what to say. Ethan looked happy with her, and that was enough for me. I genuinely felt relieved that he'd found someone steady. They chose a date in early October. A large ceremony planned at a coastal resort north of Santa Barbara. Over 180 guests. Live music, custom decor. The whole thing. One night over dinner, Daniel asked me how much I thought we should contribute. I told him not to worry about it. I said I'd cover the wedding. All of it. That's what parents do, I said. Even step-parents. Ethan hugged me when I told him. He actually teared up. He said Lena's family couldn't afford something like this. He said it meant everything to him. Daniel smiled at me, the way he used to, back when things still felt solid between us. I should have known that moment wouldn't last. 3 weeks ago, Ethan and Lena came over to go through final wedding details. Seating charts. Guest lists. Who sits near whom. All the quiet politics people pretend don't matter. We were sitting in the living room, papers spread across the coffee table, when Ethan's phone rang. It was his biological mother's sister, his aunt, calling from across the country. He put her on speaker. They talked about the wedding. She said she wouldn't miss it for anything. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. She said she was glad Ethan was keeping the wedding, just family, no outsiders. Only the people who truly mattered. Ethan laughed. He said, "Exactly. That's what I want. Just real family." I looked at Daniel. He didn't look up. And in that moment, I felt something shift, quietly, but permanently. I didn't know what to say at first. I just stared at Ethan, trying to process the words I'd just heard. "Margaret," he said quietly, "this isn't about money. It's about honoring my dad. And having you there, it feels wrong." I blinked. I thought I'd misheard him. "What?" I asked. He looked down at his hands. He said, "I don't want you at the wedding." Daniel finally spoke, in that soft, cautious voice he always uses when he doesn't want to make waves. Maybe we should talk about this later," he said. Ethan ignored him. His expression wasn't angry. It was almost pitying. He said, "I've been thinking about this a lot. The more I plan, the more I realize I want it to feel authentic. I want to honor my dad. I can't do that if you are sitting there pretending to be him." I took a deep breath. "I never pretended to be your father," I said. "You kind of did," he said. "You've always acted like you had a right to be involved in my life. Like I owed you something." Daniel spoke softly. "Ethan, that's not fair." Ethan turned to his father. "Dad, you know it's true. Margaret's always hovering, asking questions, trying to be part of everything. I'm 27. I don't need a parent anymore. I especially don't need a fake one." I stood up. I needed to move. I needed to do something other than sit there listening to this. "So, let me get this straight," I said. "You want me to pay for your wedding, but not attend it?" He nodded. "If you want to put it that way, yes. I'm not saying you have to pay for it, but you offered. If you don't want to anymore, that's fine. Lena and I will figure something out." Daniel's face was pale. He was silent. But I could see it in the way he shifted, the way he didn't look at me, the way his hands trembled slightly. I said calmly, "All right, Ethan. If that's what you want, I won't come to your wedding." He looked relieved, almost happy. He smiled a little and said, "Thank you for understanding." They left the house. Daniel didn't say a word to me. He didn't defend me, and that was when I realized the truth. It wasn't just Ethan. It wasn't even just Lena. Daniel had already sided with them, quietly, without needing to speak a word. I was the outsider. I always had been. So I went upstairs, into my office, closed the door. And I picked up the phone again. The next morning, I told Daniel I had business to take care of. I would be out most of the day. He barely looked up from his coffee. I met with my attorney first. Her name was Clara, and we had worked together for 30 years. I told her everything. She listened without interrupting. Then she pulled out a notepad and started writing. "Are you sure about this, Margaret?" she asked. "Completely," I said. "This is going to hurt a lot of people," she said. "They hurt me first," I replied. She nodded. "All right. Then let's talk about the house." The house Daniel and I shared was in my name only. I had bought it 5 years before we got married. The title had never changed. It was a beautiful, 4-bedroom home in La Jolla, Ocean View, worth around $1.9 million. Daniel moved in when we married. His name was on nothing. Clara reminded me that I had full legal right to sell. Daniel would have no claim unless he could prove significant contributions, which he hadn't. I asked how fast a sale could happen. Clara said, "Price it right, market is hot, you could sell in 2 weeks." "Do it," I said. Next, I met with my financial planner, Simon. I told him I wanted all accounts separated, all investments liquidated, everything clean, everything mine, no shared assets. Then I called my real estate agent, Isabel, who had sold me the house originally. I told her I wanted to list it immediately. She whistled. That's fast, she said. I want it sold before the end of the month, I said. She nodded. Photographers would come that week. Listing would go high. We'd see what happened. I thanked her, and went home. Daniel was in the kitchen when I returned. He asked where I'd been. Taking care of things, I said. He frowned. Ethan called, he said. Wanted dinner next week to finalize seating and details. You can have dinner with him, I said. I'm not going. Daniel shook his head. Margaret, don't be like this. I said nothing. I went upstairs. I had work to do. Over the next 2 weeks, I moved through that house like a ghost. Daniel asked me repeatedly, what was wrong? I said nothing. He seemed to accept it. By Tuesday, the for sale sign went up. Daniel came home from a meeting, saw it, and paled. He came into my office holding his car keys. Why is there a for sale sign on the lawn? He asked. Because I'm selling the house, I said calmly. You are what? I'm selling it. It's mine. I'm selling it. You can't do that. I live here. Not for long, I said. He stared at me. Margaret, what is happening? I'm disappearing, Daniel. I said. The house sold in 8 days. A young couple from Singapore bought it, cash offer, $2.1 million. Isabel called me personally. This is the fastest sale I've ever seen, she said. I accepted immediately. Closing was set 3 weeks out. Daniel moved into a temporary rental. He called me every day, sometimes twice. Begging. Pleading. Margaret, don't do this. You are being cruel. Think of Ethan. I didn't answer most of the calls. When I did, I kept it short. The decision was made. Ethan called too. Angry, defensive. You are punishing both of us for one misunderstanding. I've apologized. What more do you want? I said. You didn't apologize, Ethan. You said you felt bad. That's not the same thing. He spat out, fine. I'm sorry. I said, calmly, 14 years too late. He paused. 14 what? I spent 14 years showing up for you. Supporting you. Being there. And the moment it mattered you told me I was nobody. An outsider. Not family. So now I'm acting like nobody. I'm disappearing, exactly like you asked. He started crying. You are ruining everything. My wedding. My life. I shrugged. Not attending your wedding. Not paying for your wedding. Not paying for anything anymore. You are 27. You'll figure it out. He shouted. But you already promised. And you promised I was family. Both promises were lies. Only one of us is sticking to their word. That's me. Connor, sorry, Lena's fiancé, called the next day. Polite, cautious. Maybe we can talk this through like adults. I said, Connor, this isn't about you. He said, kind of is. You are pulling funding for our wedding. Yes. For a wedding I'm not invited to. Seems fair. Ethan had been willing to let me in at the last second. But I didn't want a pity invitation. I wanted respect. I wanted to be treated like I mattered. They'd made it clear I didn't. So I walked away entirely. I spent that night in the empty house one last time. All the furniture was gone, sold or donated. The hardwood floors echoed with my footsteps. I walked through every room, the living room where Ethan told me I wasn't family. To kitchen, where Daniel and I had our morning coffee. To bedroom we shared for 13 years. On the kitchen counter, I left a black binder. Inside, a record of every expense I had ever incurred for Ethan. Tuition, rent, cars, startup loans, groceries, utilities, hospital visits, travel, everything. I'd spent months compiling it. Clara helped me organize it chronologically. The total $467,000. Each page labeled with date, amount, and purpose. At the end, a letter. It read, Ethan, you told me I was not your father. You told me I was an outsider. You told me I had been pretending for 13 years. You were wrong about pretending. I never pretended. Everything I did for you was genuine. You were right about one thing. I am not your father. Your father passed away when you were 11. I am the man who chose to care for you. After that. This binder shows what that care looked like in financial terms. I am not asking you to pay me back. Money was never the point. I want you to see what it means when someone truly chooses to be there for you. Your father would have done all of this, and more. He would have loved you unconditionally. I tried to do the same. You made it clear it wasn't enough. Or maybe it was too much. Or maybe it simply didn't matter because I wasn't the right person. That's your choice. It's also my choice to accept it and move forward. I am not coming to your wedding. I am not paying for your wedding. I am not paying for anything else in your life. Not because I'm angry. Though I am, not for revenge. Though part of me wants it. But because you asked me to disappear. And I am respecting that. I hope your wedding is everything you want. I hope Lena makes you happy. I hope your life is full of people who meet your standards for family. I won't be one of them. Take care of yourself. Margaret. I locked the door behind me. Drove to my temporary condo downtown. The next morning, Daniel's phone rang at 7:30. He screamed like I had never heard. He had gone back to the house to collect forgotten items. Found the binder. Read every single page. Then he called Ethan. They both sat on the empty kitchen floor, reading it again. Daniel kept screaming into the phone. Crawl. Petty. You turned a family disagreement into war. I said calmly, Daniel. Ethan asked me to disappear. So I did. I'm not sure why you are surprised. He yelled. You've destroyed everything. The wedding is in 6 weeks. How is he supposed to pay for it? I said, not my problem. Ethan called too. Crying. Apologizing. Begging. Saying he was stupid, selfish, that he finally understood. I said, Ethan, the only thing you are sorry about is that there are consequences. He offered to invite me to the wedding. To walk him down the aisle. To sit in the front row. I said, I don't want a pity invitation. I wanted respect. I got none. Now I live accordingly. He begged, promised to repay every penny. I told him, keep the money. Spend it on therapy. Figure out why you think people are disposable. Then I hung up. Every call, every plea, every argument bounced off me. They didn't understand one thing: I wasn't punishing anyone. I was taking back my dignity. The house was gone. Daniel and Ethan were left with nothing but the memories, and the binder. I moved most of my things into storage. Rented a small condo downtown. Temporary, but mine. A place where no one could reach me, no one could demand anything from me. That night, I sat on the balcony overlooking the city lights. For the first time in years, I felt calm. Not angry. Not sad. Just free. The following morning, the calls started again. Daniel. Ethan. Lena. Daniel's sisters. Ethan's friends. Everyone wanted to tell me I was being unreasonable. Everyone wanted to remind me of how much this hurts. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Because I had already won, not in their eyes, but in mine. I started focusing on myself. I enrolled in a painting class I had always wanted to take. I joined a local hiking group. I volunteered at a community center, teaching young adults financial literacy. For the first time in years, my life was my own. No one demanding, no one judging, no one expecting. The best part. I didn't feel empty. I felt alive. Meanwhile, word of the binder spread. Daniel was furious. Ethan was humiliated. Lena devastated. The wedding, once lavish and expensive, had to be scaled down dramatically. From a coastal resort to a small restaurant in Santa Barbara. Guest list cut in half. No string quartet. No imported flowers. Just a simple ceremony and dinner. I didn't attend. I didn't pay for it. I didn't care. And that was the point. They had treated me as disposable for 13 years. They assumed I would quietly fund everything, smile, and keep my mouth shut. They thought they could erase me with a few words. They were wrong. Weeks passed. Daniel filed for divorce quietly. Ethan begged. Lena tried to reason. I ignored it all. I had no obligation to anyone who refused to see my value. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need their gratitude. I only needed my own respect. I spent the mornings painting, afternoons volunteering, evenings hiking. I was rebuilding a life that was mine, completely and utterly mine. Every email from Ethan or Daniel that begged, pleaded, or tried to guilt me only reminded me why I had walked away. Every attempt to drag me back into their drama was futile. I had taken control. I had disappeared. But unlike what they expected, I hadn't vanished. I had risen. And that, more than anything, was the revenge. Months passed. Ethan got what he wanted, his small, intimate wedding. Photos appeared online. Lena in a simple dress, Ethan in a sharp suit. They smiled for the camera. I felt nothing, no satisfaction, no anger, no sadness. Just distance. Daniel filed for divorce. I didn't contest it. Clara handled everything. Within 6 months, it was finalized. Letters arrived during that time. Daniel wrote once. A long, bitter note. Saying I had destroyed our family. Saying he had wasted 13 years. Calling me small, petty, bitter. I didn't reply. Ethan wrote 2 long, rambling apologies. Explanations. Claims that he now understood what I had done for him. That he would spend the rest of his life grateful. I didn't reply, because I didn't need their validation anymore. I had validation I could trust, my own. 6 months after the divorce, I moved to Monterey. A small house overlooking the ocean. Quiet, affordable, mine. A place to breathe. A place to start fresh. I volunteered at a community center, taught young adults how to manage money, how to plan for their future. I hiked, painted, explored. Every day, I felt more like myself than I had in years. People sometimes ask me if I have family. I say I used to. But now, I have something better. Peace. Control. Freedom. 3 months later, a message arrived. It was from Lena. She said Ethan had become a father, his first child. She mentioned naming the baby after Daniel's mother. She said Ethan had been thinking about family lately. Said he wished he could do better. Said they wanted to reach out to me someday. I read the message twice. Then I deleted it. I am 62 years old. I have no obligation to teach adults how to respect people. They should have learned that long ago. I have a painting class this afternoon. Tomorrow, I'll hike along the coast. Next week, I'm starting a financial workshop at the community center. My life is full. Quiet, but full. And mine. Ethan got exactly what he asked for. I disappeared. But in disappearing, I found something I didn't even know I'd lost. Respect. Peace. Control. The revenge isn't about hurting them. It's about taking back yourself. It's about refusing to be disposable. It's about walking away when they try to erase you, and realizing you never needed them to begin with. And that, in the end, is worth more than any wedding, any apology, any argument, any heartbreak. I walked away. They thought they had won. But I had already won, quietly, fully, and on my own terms.